What's going on, everybody? This Childish, we're back at it again, bringing you part 3 of our Monster Spotlight series. In this particular series, we're talking about the unique monsters with passives, all of them, and seeing if they're good and bad when it comes to the new upcoming content, the Guild Siege Battle. If you guys haven't heard, there is a natural 4-star and under defense that have to be considered here. So if you haven't seen already, I already put out 2 different videos, one for the fire and water ones respectively. So if you want to go ahead and check those out, they will be up top in the information circle in the top right, so you can go ahead and check it out and get all the custom here. So again, similar to the water one, if you already saw part 2, this one's going to move relatively quickly because for the simple fact that the options that are available in the wind and the water ones respectively don't even come close to the fire category here. So we'll move right into it. This time around, we're going to flip the script. We're going to start out with the 3-star monsters and work our way down the list here. First one that we got going on is our meta, the Wind Serpent here. This is definitely one that will not be utilized, despite the fact that it does have the beneficial effect removal on the first skill. Pretty unique. And both skills are doing damage based on max HP. This is one that you generally put on the offensive side to counter your fire-based monsters. No one's going to be bringing or going to be having any issues dealing with this, as again, this is kind of more for your setup versus their setup, right? So again, you know, nice damage reduction here, but this is definitely counterable. You just go for somebody else, work them down, and don't really worry about this one until, you know, at the very end, right? So next one that we got going on here is actually right to the right of it, Ragan. Now this one here in the category of 3-star monsters, I actually really enjoy this one. I think that this one could be messed around with a little bit, similar to the other water golem here, but either more, I give this one a little bit more love here. So again, this one has the stun and provoke mechanic. It has a defense buff and the immunity with the attack bar increase on 2. But his passive is going to have his own basic damage reduction. And this is not one that requires to be at a certain percentage. It's just going to be a straight 50% damage reduction. And then it has a counterattack mechanic for 20%. So it's a little bit higher than you would have on a revenge set. What this means is the reduction of the damage paired up with a unit that has his own immunity and defense buff is going to make this unit really tanky and really hard to take down. And of course, if you try to take down, despite the fact that it's going to have the immunity on it, you're going to have a lot more opportunities to lock down your opponents or opponents that are going for it by the stun and provoke counterattack that you're going to be able to generate from the passive on this first skill called Impact here. So again, this one's pretty unique. Of course, if I had the opportunity to, I would pair it with some kind of a shield to just take advantage of that defense passive and the buffs it's going to be bringing. But of course, you're going to need a lot more units in the comp in order to really fine tune and get max value out of this particular monster here. Because again, the unique passive it's good, but it's avoidable. Somebody can avoid it, just kill everybody else and leave him one for last, and he's not going to be too much of a pain here. So still, unique monster either way. Okay, it looks like I'm going to scroll all the way down because that's what I have on my list. Apparently, I felt that this one here, I need to stop the press and be like, hey, this could be a fun one to use. Now, again, this kind of falls into that Necropolis B10 category where I feel you're going to get a little bit more value out of using this and using it for your Necropolis B10 team versus a Guild War defense team. Now, maybe you got your Necropolis team where it has, you know, your units have a ton of speed, and maybe this one here, even with them being the lowest one to go on your comp, he still has a decent amount of speed to be viable here. But again, he has the slow, he has a defense break, and then he has a great passive here, providing the shield every turn, and then decreasing the attack speed by 1 turn. So again, pair that with his second skill, exchanging the attack screed for a stun defect. You got so many different things going on. Slows, the defense breaks, the stun mechanic, a lot of things going on. And this is an HP-based monster. Even though he can do a ton of attack, he has a way of staying alive by means of that shield. So overall, this has an amazing kit. If there was ever a random monster that you're saying, hey, I need to bring in some kind of a wind element monster that needs some kind of RNG to it and has all the harmful effects that I'm looking for to slow the opponent down, as well as speed your team up to do damage, this would be my go-to unit. Like, I would have such a fun time with this unit in the Guild War defense. I ain't gonna lie. Really fun unit. So, next one up, we're gonna be moving back to the 3-star category here. And these are gonna be ones that we're gonna blow really quickly through. There's not a lot of whole things going on. We're just giving them a little honorable mention because they have a passive here. So passive Disdain HP status higher than the enemies, your attacks will do additional damage proportionate to max HP. This is not always going to be the case. Once your HP status has been reduced, then obviously you're just not going to get a lot of value out of it. And again, even though you have the chance of getting the damage here, this skill still does not scale on max HP. So you basically have to rely on this skill in order to get a little bit more out of this skill. And this one already has the max HP. So again, obviously not a great monster. No one ever uses that monster, and rightfully so. Here we go. Next one up, Wind Martial Cat, Miss Naomi. Obviously, this is not going to be a Guild War defense monster. Tiger's appearance gains 25% critical chance for every harmful effect on an enemy. Obviously, if you're building this one to do damage or whatnot, then yes, you're going to have a decent amount of critical rate already. You're not waiting on a passive to kick in with regards to harmful effects. That'd be kind of risky, simply for the fact of what happens when they don't have harmful effects. Then you're at a really low critical rate here. So, but again, it has that stomach end of the first skill, a little CC, but again, not viable in PvP at all. Next one up, we have Ardella. Yeah, Ardella, Guild War defense, right? For siege battles. Sure, no, obviously this is not going to be the case, but again, we want to mention it has a passive critical rate improvement by 25% and critical damage improvement according to how much HP you've lost here. This is fun unit for the Rifter Worlds if you need a attack-based sponsor and you have the good runes to back it up stat-wise. But yeah, I would not be using that in the Guild War defense here. Next one up, Ein Tao, the Wind Minotaurus here. Lord of Labyrinth, the attack bar is increased by 50% and you are healed by 30% of the damage you deal. So it has a vampiric effect, vampire set kind of built into it, and the attack power is improved. Take note that though, the attack power is damage you do is increased by 50%, but the second skill, correction, the second skill is not based on your max HP. It's actually additionally, if enemies dies by this attack. Yeah, so these are both attack scaling units, even though this is, or attack scaling skills, even though that this one is an HP based monster. So this one has a potential to do a little bit of damage, but again, not viable for defense. Vampiric effect is nice, but I don't think it's going to be worth your time there. Next one up there, Velfinodon. Velfinodon should be up here shortly. There we go. Wind Lizardman. I think this is one of the fusion monsters that you're going to need. Interesting passive, bone scale, reflection damage of 10%. And then we got the provoking of attacker for 30% chance. If the reflection was a little bit higher, then maybe sure it could be viable here, because if they start going for it, they're reflecting a ton of damage and then they're provoking, which makes it go for it a little bit more, not being able to use the skills at once. But again, defense scaling monsters, super viable once that defense is broken here. So I'm not a big fan of it, especially for the Guild War defense here. Next one up, we got, I would say Nabib. I don't know how you pronounce that, but that's the Wind Mummy. I think his passive is pretty unique. Becomes immune to continuous damage when being attacked. The attackers will suffer continuous damage for 1 turn. Now, I say unique in the aspect of I think it's cool, but is it viable? Hell no. Continuous damage, like we talked about, it's more of a PvE thing. You can't really get a lot of value out of it. So again, stay away from that one. Save your skills for the Water Mummy if you want to play around with that one, right? Believe it or not, this tractor also has a passive strange reversible reaction here. Crane, the Wind Frankenstein. Defense is increased by 25% for each beneficial effect you have on, and your attack speed is increased for each harmful effect you have on. So pretty unique there. You know, a lot of mitigation when it comes to beneficial effects, but then furthermore, you got the attack speed increase when things are not looking all too good. So it'll get you that attack bar increase so that you can get your turn to get those defense or get those harmful effects off of you. So second skill, again, I don't like it. The taunt, I feel like the taunt's very underwhelming for the Frankensteins across the board here. So obviously this is not going to be, in my humble opinion, a good monster for the Guild War defense here. I think we only got a couple more here. Next one is going to be Irwin, the Wind Elven Ranger. When being attacked, the damage you receive will be decreased by halving the attack speed. Your attack speed will be decreased for 1 turn. This will only activate once per turn. So again, this is kind of nice because it can reduce the damage, but it is an attack-based monster. So building it in a way that's going to be able to take a hit and outlast your opponent, I don't think it's going to be an option. Again, stay away from it on the Guild War defensive side, but hey, it does have a passive, so we got to mention it, right? Taking a look at the list here, the next one here I'm pretty excited about. We're going back to the 4-star category. If I can find her, Miss Yen. the Wind Rakshasa. There she is. So I have never built her as of yet, but obviously, you know, when it comes to RNG, I do like her, and she'd be fun to use. She has a built-in violent proc for 50% chance for this particular skill, Dancing Whip. The continuous damage, kind of lackluster here. But both skills are based on attack speed, and you got the slow break, and of course you got the attack speed, the attack power leader skill. So this is one of those that you can definitely get a lot of turns in, and because of the fact that the Rakshasas do pretty good damage all around, if you got a violent set paired up with that violent, you know, bonus, I mean that's a lot of opportunity to get some turns up in there and cycle that second skill and first skill there respectively. So yeah, fun unit to play around with. The next one that we're looking at, I don't know if it's Inuwu or how you pronounce it, but the Wind Anubis. This one here, again, hit point recovery on first, branding effect on 2, and then the last one here, Underworld King's Return, revives 30% with your dying breath and fills up the attack bar to a full amount, and your attack bar is also increased by 100% each whenever revived. So that's, oh, and accumulates up to 3 times here. So again, that's kind of nice. It has a little counter on there, but you know, again, this is one of those things that I think people can avoid. I don't think it's going to be, I don't think it has enough in its kit to really create a comp that revolves around it. Obviously, that's not the intention of this video, to create comps that revolve around these monsters. But ultimately, when you're looking at monsters with passive, you're trying to get, you know, a little bit more value out of it. You definitely want to pair it with certain monsters that may, you know, synergize well with it. But again, this one here, and not too much, but you know, it has a pretty unique kit, so it's nice to mention it. So next one up here, the one that no one's ever going to touch for a million years, Windy, the Wind Jack-o'-lantern. This is the one that you guys cringe on when you guys see that fake Fat-Fi pop up and somebody just got Windy. It makes you so mad. Gain shield that's equivalent to 20% of your max HP for 1 turn when being attacked by an enemy. So it generates a shield, but of course you have to be attacked to do that. So ultimately, you're building this one to be, you know, relatively tanky, but and you can get that bonus of that shield. But it's kind of scary because again, I don't think that the kit that it brings to the mix is going to be enough to make it, you know, viable here. So again, you got the passives. We got to mention it. Let's see. Now this one here, Morris, kind of makes me think of Rena in a sense, where it's just going to be kind of annoying, depending on what, you know, who they go for. So live or die, right? Rolls 2 dice at the start of each turn, and if an ally dies, it will revive 1 dead ally if you get the same number. And the ally will be revived with more HP as the sum of the numbers increases. So the potential to make your unit that you revive quite a bit. And so, you know, when I think about like just nasty, crazy stall setups here, I mean that would be something to fun about playing. I think Rena still holds the crown on that one, but again, that's just one of those things that you never know. If you built it super tanky, right? And I mean, you got, mind you, you got these 2 skills here. You got a CC mechanic on this one if you can get higher than 7. Then you got all these harmful effects, tons of ways of generating additional turns to allow you to potentially bring up a monster if they don't go for Morris outright here. So that's my concern. I feel like with Morris, how his passive works, I think he's going to be a target right away. So unless you got something else on his defense that's going to be a much bigger threat, I don't think he's going to work on the Guild War defense. But yeah, that's it. Believe it or not, guys, we just moved right along through that wind element. Again, water wind element, very lackluster. The fire ones are definitely going to be you know, taking that top spot here as far as the majority of monsters that could potentially be viable for, you know, compositions in the Guild War defense and the Guild Siege defense there. So again, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Any of these monsters that you took a look at, which ones do you think would be viable? I like Fuko, I like Ragion for my topics here. I'm trying to think if I see if there was anybody else that I kind of had mentioned here, but I think, yeah, I think Fuko and Ragion are going to be some of my more like go-to ones if I ever think about doing it. Maybe down the road I'll mess around with Yam, but I think I'll do her more on the offensive side. But all the other monsters, yeah, not really feeling them. But either way, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned, as tomorrow we will have a video for the light and dark monsters. Again, this is going to be a pretty quick video, as one, not a lot of people are going to have the light and dark monsters, but two, there are a couple of monsters that are obtainable that we should definitely talk about that you could take advantage of. So, well, we'll go ahead and cut it off right there, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's your boy Childish, Childish Plays. Check it out. Take care. We will see you in part 4 featuring the light and dark monsters with passives.